Before we begin, please press the like button and the subscribe button. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking some truly startling news that, honestly, fundamentally changes how we need to look at cloud security. If your security protocol includes deleting Google API keys to block access to cloud applications or third-party tools, you really need to pay close attention to this. We're going to look at a massive, literally invisible vulnerability hiding right in plain sight, a shocking 23-minute delay in Google's API key revocation process.
Okay, let's dive into this by asking what seems like an incredibly straightforward question. When you delete an API key, when does it actually stop working, right? Well, if you're like most IT pros out there, you probably think the answer is instantly. You hit delete, the key is revoked, and boom, access is totally cut off. We all kind of just assume that hitting delete acts as this immediate, foolproof emergency shutoff switch. But what if that assumption is just completely wrong?
Here is the shocking reality that was recently discovered by the researchers over at Aikido Security. 23 minutes. Yeah, you heard that right. After a Google API key is deleted right there in the Google Cloud Console, it doesn't just poof disappear. Instead, that deleted credential can actually continue to successfully authenticate for up to 23 minutes. I mean, that's almost a whole half hour, where a key you thought was totally dead is still very, very much alive.
Section 1, the emergency shutoff myth, and exactly why deleted doesn't mean gone.
So, the crucial point is this. When an API key gets leaked, an IT team's absolute first reflex is to jump into the console and smash that delete button. They're expecting that action to instantly block all access and contain the threat right then and there. But, as we're seeing, deleted doesn't mean gone. During the most sensitive, critical period of an incident response, a security team might breathe this huge sigh of relief, falsely believing the risk is totally contained. But in reality, they're operating under a massive false sense of security while that gap is just sitting there, wide open.
Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, 23 minutes isn't really that long in the grand scheme of things. But remember, in cybersecurity, speed is literally everything. In hacker time, 23 minutes is an absolute eternity. If you give a cybercriminal a partially active credential for over 20 minutes, you are handing them a massive window of opportunity to exploit systems, siphon off sensitive data, and basically just cause an incredible amount of damage before that door finally actually locks.
Moving on to Section 2, why the delay happens inside distributed cloud infrastructure.
So API keys are essentially the vital glue connecting all these massive cloud networks and applications together. When you delete one, you trigger this process called authentication cache propagation. Basically, that's just the time required for access credential changes to ripple across all the distributed nodes in a massive cloud environment. Think of it like physical security. Deleting a key is kind of like firing an employee and revoking their badge at the main office. But because of Google's immense, globally distributed architecture, it takes up to 23 minutes for the security guards at every single door in the entire global building to actually get the memo.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect we're dealing with here. On one hand, we have the expectation of immediate invalidation. That's what the admin assumes is happening when they click delete. But on the other side, we have the reality of latency. Because these changes don't ripple through instantly, you end up with API key invalidation latency. Some nodes, they get it right away and block access, but others lag way behind and just keep blindly honoring that revoked key. But here is what makes this truly agitating, like an actual nightmare for administrators. There is absolutely no confirmation from Google indicating when that authentication window is actually closed. You don't get an email, you don't get a neat little alert when the propagation is finally complete across all the nodes, nothing. That total lack of certainty is the real problem here. It literally turns cloud API key lifecycle management into this incredibly risky guessing game.
Let's get into Section 3, how to protect yourself with 4 crucial mitigation strategies.
So, Google hasn't actually announced a fix for this delay yet, which means security teams now have to account for a vulnerability they can't even measure. Let's move to and see how this builds into an actionable defense plan. Because while we wait for a permanent fix, there are immediate ways to reduce the risk. We're looking at 4 tactical steps. Rotate proactively, restrict aggressively, monitor real-time, and assume the window exists.
Let's break these down real quick. First, rotate regularly to reduce key value. Don't wait for a breach to trigger a rotation, just make it standard practice. Second, tightly scope those permissions. The more restricted a key is, the less damage a hacker can do in that 23-minute window. Third, set up alerts for unexpected usage post-deletion. If an API is being pinged after you hit delete, you need real-time monitoring to prompt an immediate investigation. And fourth, actually, scratch that. This one is absolutely non-negotiable right now. Update your incident response playbooks. You literally must assume this gap exists and actively build that 23-minute delay into your game plan.
Finally, Section 4, Rethinking Cloud Security, beyond the green checkmark.
This entire explainer really serves as a powerful reminder that modern cloud controls just don't always behave the way we think they do. Seeing a satisfying green checkmark on your admin dashboard, it simply does not equal immediate enforcement. Until a formal fix is issued, we've got to treat API revocation as a time-consuming process. So I want to leave you with this final, critical question to chew on. Does your incident response plan account for the 23-minute ghost in the system? Take a really hard look at your playbooks today, folks. Plan your security response based on the reality of the cloud, not just the expectation of a delete button. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning your assumptions.